In this video, you'll learn about the tropical cyclone that is due to hit the slowboat in Tonga on New Year's Day. Subscribe to Slowboat Sailing so you can see ripped from the headlines videos about the stories that matter to cruising sailors, like the devastation from Hurricane Florence in 2018. So the Boatyard said they were hauling out a bunch of boats in preparation for the Category 1 cyclone, which is due to hit Tonga at local time January 2nd, which is pretty much January 1st in the US or in Europe. So I started looking at the weather, and sure enough, there was a Category 1 cyclone forecast for Vava'u. My first take is that the Boatyard there is really good. It's got those high-sided hills. It's well out of the water, so it's unlikely that storm surge is going to be an issue like it was in Hurricane Florence. And so a Category 1 hurricane we definitely could sustain. So her Category 1 hurricane is a Force 12 storm. My bigger worries would be cause travel disruptions. I was planning on visiting the boat to air it out. I had a real problem at the beginning of Season 3 in Tahiti. And so if you're following along with the vlog is still in Season 2. But at the end of Season 2, I left the boat in Tahiti, and it got a lot of mold and all kinds of other problems that made it harder to recommission the boat at the beginning of Season 3. And I wanted to air out the boat in Tonga about midway between Season 3 and 4 because I didn't do that in Tahiti. Even though I'm paying somebody to mind the boat and air it out, I still wanted to go back. Plus there was there's kind of installation projects that I'd like to do if I had just like a week in the Boatyard to work on those. So the question is the cyclone going to cause travel disruptions? It's going to hit Fiji, and it's forecast to hit Tonga, and I'm flying into Air Fiji because I thought that was the best airline, most reliable airline to use. It's looking right now that the cyclone's not going to really affect their hub in Nadi in Fiji, but it is the forecast models that moving more towards Vava'u, and my hope is that wouldn't cause any like power outages or water problems, which are obviously some of the worst aspects of major storms. Obviously, a Category 1 hurricane is not a major storm, but what I found was that a Category 1 cyclone is not equivalent to a Category 1 hurricane. So as I mentioned, a Category 1 hurricane is a Force 12 storm with over 64 knot sustained winds, whereas a Category 1 cyclone, as they define it by Australian or Fiji, Tongan standards, South Pacific standards, is actually a Force 8 to Force 9 gale. So it's not even at the storm level of significance. So in point of fact, it shouldn't be too bad. Should be able not have any disruptions due to this. I'm going to be flying a little later after this storm hits. Now, the Euro model is showing that there may be a storm, a more severe cyclone, more severe gale, maybe up to the storm force level, maybe up to even the hurricane force level on the Saffir-Simpson scale. But that may come about in a week, and it may not show up at all. And that's not forecast to hit Tonga, but it might hit Fiji. Of course, that could affect my travel connections because I fly into Fiji and then to Tonga, and so going back, it's from Tonga to Fiji. The other problem that I'm facing for checking out the boat and airing it out that I'm planning to do is that there's a travel warning right now that they were having trouble getting jet fuel in Vava'u, and they had to reduce the flight sizes and the baggage limits into Vava'u on Fiji Airways because they were supposed to be resupplied on the same day that the Tropical 1 cyclone is hitting. It's not clear if that will cause disruptions, and then in the islands. You never know if there'll be disruptions for any potential reason. So that's another thing I have to keep aware of as I get ready to go back to the boat to do the projects that I'd like to do. And we'll see how that goes. In terms of like direct damage to the boat, I don't think I would be too worried about that unless it were like to a hurricane force 3, 4, 5 level. And even then, I am very confident in the Boatyard. I took off all the sails. You can't see that from the photos here, but I took off all the sails before departing. The only really canvasy type thing I have is the dinghy cover. Besides that, all the sails are off. The boat's in a cradle. It also has stands on it. So I'm not too worried it's going to fall down. It's also next to that big hill there, which is a great block to the wind, at least in that side. Vava'u is really a fjord type place, so I think it's kind of hard for the wind to get in there as it is. So, all bets are off when you get to those kind of like tornado levels of winds like they had, for instance, on the Panhandle. But I think that, so obviously I kept my boat in New Orleans, and in New Orleans a lot of storms have hit while we were in the water in the marina. I feel a lot more confident to have the boat hauled out than being in a marina during a storm hit. So, being in the South Pacific through cyclone season I don't think is increasing my risk level that much versus keeping my boat in New Orleans and dreaming about sailing the South Pacific. So season at the end of season 1, I left it in Ecuador. There was no hurricane risk there. At the start of season 2, I left the boat in the Marquesas, and there's pretty much no cyclone risk there either. At the end of season 2, I left it in Tahiti. There's some cyclone risk, but I don't recall there ever being a cyclone warning for Tahiti and the Society Islands while it was there. And they're more rare in that part of the South Pacific. But at Tonga, there's a greater risk of cyclone activity. And New Caledonia, where we plan to keep the boat at the end of season 4, that's our plan, has a much higher cyclone risk, I think, than even Fiji or Tonga. And so, that goes up. The cyclone risk is not going to go away when we keep the boat in Australia either. There's probably a much more severe cyclone that's going to hit Australia in the next week, according to the weather models, versus the one that's going to hit Tonga and Fiji in the next couple days. Let me know your scariest storm experience on your boat, and wish me luck in my travels to the tropics during cyclone season. Subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and if you want to get notifications via email, go to slowboatsailing.com and sign up for our free newsletter. Happy 2019!